for joining me for After the Show Behind the Scenes. I have a woman with me on today. My Lord. Her name is Sherley. Now, I was joking with her trying to say her last name, but I promise you I am not going to butcher her last name. I dare not. But she is an author. She is a speaker. She is an entrepreneur. She's a Bible teacher. She's a nurse. We were on the show Saturdays with Shalimar J that airs on Preach the Word Worldwide Network at 9 o'clock in the morning. And so now this is our second segment. So if you are not watching, please join me on Preach the Word Worldwide Network for Saturdays with Shalimar J at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday of the week. Um, we do the after the show behind the scenes because we just don't have enough time during network television, allotted time to talk about all things God and continue to share testimonies. But I learned today. Now I thought, y'all, that and if my makeup is I was crying earlier, I was trying to pull my tears up and I might start crying again. They were good tears though. But I thought that she was just, a nurse, an entrepreneur, a speaker, a Bible teacher, an author. I done found out Shirley is a praise dancer, praise and worship leader, choir director, choir member. And it's not a brag, but she was doing all these things for God, y'all. So, what all of that says to me is there's no excuse for you not to do something for the kingdom. Put your hands in something, you know? So, Shirley,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
were just talking about your book, right? And if you don't mind, I know your story is something that obviously you are comfortable with sharing. But there are levels to the story that you shared. And I don't know if you want to go back around that again in this time span, but whatever it is, for the people who weren't able to tune in on to the show earlier this morning, but are watching now and we'll watch this later because I mean we're on YouTube and so you can go back and replay it at any point in time. Can you share with the people your story? Um, Talk to us about Shirley. I'm going to leave the floor and I'm leaving everything in your hands. I may interject
Fine.
here and there, but I just feel like it's important, if you don't mind, to let somebody else hear what God has done for you.
Absolutely. So, by the age of 5 years old, I experienced abandonment by my father, who physically abused my mother before he left. And this caused us to, live in a single parent home. I had five siblings. I was the youngest of five, the only female. My home became very toxic and abusive, right? I experienced verbal, physical, and sexual abuse. More specifically, I was molested repeatedly from the ages of 9 through 14 years old by several men, members of my family, and friends of the family. This caused me also to be impregnated twice and forced to abort both pregnancies quietly. This caused me to be suicidal, to say the least. I hated myself. I hated my life. I really felt worthless. I felt I had no purpose, and I felt God did not love me. The day came when I had enough, and I thought this is the moment for me to make a run for it and to really break free from this life that I was living up until that point. I broke my silence, and that was the day that my worst abuser made a threat that was not an empty threat because he was more than able to do what he was threatening to do, which was to kill me that day. He attempted to throw me out of a five-story building. Only issue was that day, as he was attempting to open the window was jammed shut. As he was wrestling with the window, there was a resident in the building that came to the scene. And as they're arguing, I make a run for it, find myself in another resident's apartment, told them what I was going through. They helped me call the cops. And I was able to tell my story. From there, I was taken away from home for some time. I found myself in a group home, then a foster home. At the foster home was where I read my first New Testament. I had my first New Testament pocket Bible. That was my first real encounter with God. Up until that point, I really didn't believe in God. I didn't think, like I said, I didn't think He loved me, even if He existed. So that was very special to me. And then, right after leaving my foster home, I was placed to live with my godmother. She became my spiritual mentor, and she also led me to the Lord. She faithfully took me to church prayer meetings. We went Sunday, Monday, I mean, around the clock. She was on fire for the Lord. Unfortunately, right after my conversion, she did pass away from cancer. I had no idea that she was even sick. She was such a powerful, prayerful woman of God. She just covered it well, that she was sick. And the time came for her to go be with the Lord. So here I am at 15 years old, saved, now back home safely, with my mom, and I found Christ, right? But this was also the downside of me finding Christ was that I clinged on more to religion than I did Him. Right. So I was immersed in church activity. I was immersed in ministry. I found myself really trying to kind of mask and bury my pain behind my religion. And really, a lot of us do it, whether it's intentional or not. It happens, right? So I never confronted my trauma, never went for counseling, never really found someone that I could confide in to kind of really get that deep inner healing. And I definitely didn't give it to the Lord, right? So I tried to bury my pain behind my religion and found myself in every ministry there was in my church. I mean, I was on the usher board, praise and worship team, praise and worship leader, dancer, choir. I mean, intercessor, women's ministry. I was doing it all faithfully at that because I just loved God and I felt like I owed Him all of those things, right? And so
Mhm.
while I was, so throughout all this, so years went by, and I'm now at the point of believing God for my Boaz, right? And so, unfortunately, I found myself literally in the same predicament that my mother was in years prior. I ended up a struggling single mother, right? Having been abused physically and emotionally by my son's father. I was devastated, right? I felt like such a failure. I felt like up until that point, things were going well for me. And then now here I have this big stain on my record. I have a child. I have all this baggage of my past trauma. I was just really broken. So it was just layers of pain and trauma. As years went by, I found myself making a second attempt at finding love. But this one was even worse than the prior relationship. So this man appeared to be this awesome man of God. And I thought, yes, this is it. No more cycles, no more history will not repeat itself. And boy, was I wrong. I
Wow.
was battered. I was literally beaten to the point of near death. I saw my life flash before my eyes, and I was choked, punched, smacked. And again, my son was present. Or if I didn't mention, this before, he was present and saw all of this. My heart was broken because if there's anything a mother who loves their child wants to do is protect them from their pain, right? And I did not want my child to see that, like I saw my mom, right? And he did, unfortunately. And so moved on. But from that point on, I will say this: I made a run for my life again at this point, but this time I went straight to the arms of Jesus. I was intentional about this because I didn't just want to cope with my pain, I wanted to heal from it. There's a
Mhm.
huge difference, right? There's a major difference. A lot of times people say they're healing, but they're really coping, they're surviving, they're just making it through, but they're not really dealing with it. And I really decided I was going to heal and I was going to deal with my pain so that I wasn't going to be a basket case to the next person that came in my life and deserved all of me, right? And so
Mhm.
I'm so glad I made that decision because by the time my now husband came to the scene, oh my God, I was a completely different person. I had really allowed the love of God to become my lifeline, my saving grace. I really stopped rehearsing my pain repeatedly because I had gotten to a habit of constantly thinking about everything that I had went through and what that could have meant. You start creating all these scenarios in your mind as if you're God, as if really you know everything there is to know about you. And I was really confronted by God at one point when, as I'm again thinking that I'm incapable, I'm unworthy, dealing with this low self-esteem. And He just revealed to me one day, like, wait a minute, do you know who you are? First of all, you are who I say you are. right? You're not who others say you are. You're not what your circumstances are trying to tell you. You are who I say you are. So I had to really accept that my identity was not related to my history. It had nothing to do with my history, actually, right? but
Oh,
but
my identity was not.
mhm,
What's the rest?
related to my history at all. At all. There was no connection.
Is that the title of your next book?
It
We
could be. I don't know. I don't know. And
got
it's
a T-shirt. We got a book. Woo! Go ahead, Shirley.
yes. And so he was trying to, really get to me to, get me to understand that despite all my trials and all the pressures of life, I was still his precious gem. And he had never saw me any different. As a matter of fact, he wasn't going to give up on me until I became everything he said, because the word says that his word will not return unto him void, right? So
Yep.
I didn't even have a choice in the matter, right? He put me on this earth to be everything that I am now and am becoming, right? And so it was just
Mhm.
a matter of me believing that, discovering that, and really walking in that by faith. And so here's God telling me, listen, you are precious in my sight. You are a gem. As a matter of fact, the things that you went through really helped you. Right? If you think about the process of a diamond becoming a diamond or gold shining, they have to go through the fire, they have to go through pressure. Initially they don't look like what they have the intrinsic ability to be, right? And
Mhm.
so that's what God was really trying to work on me to get me to believe. It took time. I'm not gonna lie to you. It wasn't overnight. It took years
Mhm.
actually. But God worked with me as the loving God that He is, the loving Father He is. He was patient with me. He got me to believe that I was His masterpiece. He was the potter. I was the clay. He was working everything out for my good. And so after years of waiting, He dropped right in my lap a wonderful, oh my God, one I could just shout now just thinking about this man.
Hey,
Wonderful.
girl. Well, I mean, I'll give you a second if you want to.
It's just so he is so amazing. I mean, no one is perfect. We
Right,
all have our flaws, but he is,
right.
I mean, really, God really, he did good on this one. He did really good. So the day came, the day came, and he had promised me, I kept reading his promises throughout all my, journey, and he was telling me, listen, I'm gonna restore you, I'm gonna restore you, just trust me. And so it happened, right? And I'm still reaping that word, like I'm still living that thing, because every day it seems a new layer of blessing, a new layer of just goodness, and his mercy is being unfolded, right? So this man came into my life, loves me like the loves me with the love of the Lord,
Mhm.
right? He's wonderful. He became the person that really helped birth my gift of writing, my passion for women's ministry. He helped me to see me, right? He really helped me to believe in me. He's my number one cheerleader. He helped me to birth my aptitude for entrepreneurship. He stepped in as a father figure for my son. And today we live so happy, and we're business partners, life partners, travel partners, ministry partners. I mean, you name it, we do it all together.
What is his name, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. Samuel Lefevre.
Samuel. Samuel.
Yes.
All right, now, Samuel.
Yes.
Samuel, thank you. So when you go back and see this, I'm looking at you. I'm making my eyes big now. They're probably red because I've been back here holding up tears. But thank you so much for being who you are and who you are to her and your son. You have a son, yes? That was right, right? To her and your son. Um, that let me tell you. We're not deviating from you for
Sure.
not too long, but it takes a certain kind of man
Mm, mm,
to do what he has done and is doing. I'm not saying that every man is not capable, because they are,
mhm.
but the choice is yours.
Yes.
And to choose, and and I don't want you to answer this question. I'm assuming that he knows your story.
Oh, yes. And I made sure of that from
And
like the beginning. I wanted
but
him
he
to know
loves you
exactly.
still.
Oh, yes.
Because there are some out there be like, "Oh, no, I'm straight. I'm good. Nah, sorry." But they may not articulate that, but their actions speak loud. And even though, and there are men out there who decide, okay, yeah, I'll take on this, but they don't treat your children like their own. They say they will, they don't. Samuel, if I could shake your hand, I would probably run try to give you a big old hug and be like, "Thank you, Jesus, for you, clone." Not that I'm saying that I don't have that because I do, but I'm just saying that there's so many other women out here who wish they had that, Shirley.
I
Who,
didn't even get into how we met. That's a whole how God put everything together was just nothing short of amazing. Maybe
well, I mean, you want to talk to us
just quickly, just to encourage someone because a lot of times we think God needs our help, right?
about?
We think
Right,
we need to help God, especially in the area of love. A lot of times, I've heard people say, "I trust God with everything else except the choice of my mate. Like, I have to make that choice," which is such a terrible way of thinking
right.
because we can't see past our nostril. We might think we know something. We don't even know ourselves fully, right? Every day we're evolving, we're discovering things about ourselves today we didn't even know yesterday, right? So
Hmm.
it makes sense to trust the manufacturer of us all to give us that partner because who knows us better than him, right?
Right.
But at the time that my husband and I met, we neither one of us were looking, right? We weren't like we didn't have time to socialize because both of us were knee deep in ministry. Like he was knee deep in ministry almost every day doing ministry. I was knee deep in my career and in ministry and taking care of my son and my mom. I really didn't have time for any type of socializing to even meet someone, right? So how did we meet? We ended up meeting on a prayer line.
Stop.
We met on a prayer line. Okay. I was asked to lead the prayer. He was asked to preach. So I was leading the prayer service that day and his assignment was to preach and then the rest is history. Pretty much.
Girl,
In the comfort of our homes. We never had to
lady,
leave home.
y'all better get on the prayer line.
We weren't even in the same state.
What?
Okay. So there's no way that we would have met. Like there's no way. And we wouldn't have met at a church function because I was in New York. Yes,
Wow.
ma'am. I'm in New York and he's in Boston, Massachusetts. So God just put it together.
For sure. I mean, there's no other way. And what better way
Yes.
than on the doggone prayer line,
On
y'all?
the
My
prayer line.
goodness. It can't get no better than that.
Oh
Oh my
man.
goodness. Whew. Okay. Well, I hope that's encouraging to somebody, y'all. I really do. Your strength. Now, yes, our help comes from the Lord. We find our strength in Him. Yes. But there is a place where our natural strength takes it, comes into play. And your strength, baby, listen, um,
Mm,
it's almost indescribable. I cannot, and I'm a language arts teacher. I love words. I can't even think of an adjective that's worthy of describing who you are.
my
And I
God.
mean that because a lot of people, women, I'll just stay on the vein of women, would have given up on the possibility of a man,
Mhm.
not because they felt so much not, like they weren't worthy. If you weren't even at that place in life where you felt unworthy of a man, you
Mhm.
just may not have liked man anymore. I heard you when you said that you had to get it together because you needed to be right for your Boaz.
Yeah.
So you were still open to the idea. You were still, and I know it took time, I'm sure, to get to that place, but you got there to say, God, nah, man, somebody deserves all of me and the best version of me. There's
Yes.
nothing wrong with me. I'm not damaged goods.
Right.
There's somebody out there. That is strength, girl.
God be
That
all.
is strength. And I heard you take care of
Mhm,
your mom and your brother, your son, excuse me.
mhm,
That's strength. And then career and ministry. I didn't say it was easy.
mm-mm.
I said it was strength. And girl, mm, yeah, yeah. Listen, please, and I'm not joking with this. I know sometimes I can be a little comical, and it's not on purpose. I promise you, I'm not trying to be, but I am so serious. Don't ever give up. Don't you? God, first of all, isn't going to tell us something negative. So when the negative comes, you know it's not Him. When the thoughts of insecurities and low self esteem and ideas that come to your mind to harm yourself, ideas that come to your mind, or these visions that come your way that see you in a place of filth and shame, that's not God. So you got to cast down all of that stuff. I don't
Right.
know what to replace it with, Shalimar. Okay, I get it. You see yourself as worthless, but you don't know how to see yourself any other way. I understand that. I've been there. But first, you got to start. And this is a quote that I have. The hardest part of getting over your it is the starting point of getting through it. And with the help of the Lord, we can all get through it. You got to start somewhere.
Right.
Oh, you said it earlier. What was it? Where I start is not
It
where I.
doesn't matter how your story started because it will end in glory. Your story will end in glory.
Your story will end in glory. So you got to start somewhere. Don't matter how you start. Now, listen, it's going to end in glory. You got to start somewhere. As long as you put the first foot forward, I promise you, everything else will fall in line. And
Yeah.
guess what? You might take a couple of steps back, but then you got to say, no, 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 no. Let's keep it moving. That's watching ever, let's go back to school. You're in class, you're learning the lesson. You swore down, you studied as hard as you could, but you still didn't pass the test. You did your best. You feel defeated, but then there's something called a makeup. You go back, you restudy, you look at what you got wrong and probably why you got it wrong. You have to assess the thing and you try it again.
Amen.
Don't give up. She didn't. If she did, we wouldn't be looking at her right now. My God. If she gave up, y'all, if she gave in, we wouldn't be looking at her right now. If she can do it, if she can do it, use her story as the example. It can apply in all things. I'm not just saying her story applies to the person that dealt with abuse,
Right.
that dealt with trauma. Nah, baby. If she can do it, you can do it too. If you stressed out because you don't make as much money as you used to, and you don't know how to manage things, and you feel like life is about to just fall apart, well, if she can do it, if she can get through her story, if she can make it through her pain, if she can figure out that there is something better and greater for her, this moment is just that, a moment. And by the time that moment is over, there's opportunity for another one. And I'm going to take control of the next moment with God's help and direction. So can you. It doesn't matter where you find yourself in life. If you find yourself in a place of discomfort or despair, regardless of how you got there is a way out. The masterpiece. Talk to us about it.
Sure, sure. And as I transition rather into that, I just wanted to piggyback off of what you were saying, and remind someone that God doesn't just want you to trust Him, you know, in your pain, but He wants to be able to trust you with pain, right? Because if we look at Job and all of the harsh
Mhm.
and if you know Job's story, you know what I'm saying. He went through so
Love.
many things. I mean, Job's story makes mine look like just nothing, right? And yet God confronted the enemy and said, "Have you considered my servant Job?" Right? It's almost as if God was excited about giving and trusting Job with these trials because he knew that Job would not disappoint him. He knew that he would get the glory through Job. And he knew at the end of it all, Job would have a chapter 42 in which he was given
Mhm.
double for his trouble.
Mhm.
So ask yourself, can God trust me with this pain? Will you allow him to process, right? Process
Mhm.
you and know that your pain in the hands of God becomes a platform for your purpose. when you give that pain to the Lord, He literally catapults you into your purpose. And so, as I say that, I just want to say my pain gave birth to master's piece, right? And it really became sort of my baby, right? It was something that sort of was like the end result of everything that I had been through and really ushered me into a new season of being this author that I somehow was all along. I just didn't know it because I had spent years, the way that I was sort of cope throughout the years was journaling, right? And I remember the day that I went to the Lord. Well, he was trying to actually get me to believe that I was an author. Some prophet whispered into my ear, and I pretty much laughed like, "You're right, no way, I'm not an author." I was traumatized by some English teacher. I did an essay, and they gave me a bad grade from that. I was like, "I'm not a writer," so I did not believe it. But one day, God said, "Look behind you," and I turned around. There was a box filled with journal entries that I had written over the years. Like I would write out my prayers. I would just write whatever revelation I would just write, write, write. And then I guess I was moving at the time, and the box was right there, sitting stacked with notebooks. And who wrote
Wow.
all that? Me. So I'm like, God, you tricked me. Because I would just feel a gentle push by the Holy Spirit to write down things that He would show me, or, if it was a dream or a prayer, whatever. And that was Him really preparing me to be an author. I just didn't know it. Right. And so I just want to encourage someone to know that, listen, allow God to process you, right? There's layers to you. There's things about you that you haven't even discovered yet. Don't limit God. Don't limit yourself, right? Don't be afraid to do and have, things that you've never imagined for yourself, right? And so the book is called The Master's Piece, and the book reminds us that God is the potter. We are the clay, right? And his goal is to mold us and to make us not only into the image of his son, but into the very artistic masterpiece he wants you to be. There's no one else like you in the earth. There's something very specific that you and I are here to do. And if we really give our lives over to the Lord, he will make us his masterpiece.
Well, well. Well, well. If you want to purchase, if someone wants to purchase the book, The
Absolutely.
Masterpiece, how
Yeah.
would they go about doing that?
Sure. The book is available through my website, preciousgemministries.com, or, if they have access to Amazon, it's also on Amazon. It's also on barnesandnobles.com as well.
If you want to purchase the book, The Masterpiece, you will go to www.preciousgemministries.com. It's right there on the screen. Go there, or you can purchase it at Amazon. And I'm sure, correct me if I am wrong, Shirley, if you want to find out more about her, reach
Okay.
her, contact her, you can go to the website as well. Yes?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There it is, y'all. That is Shirley. That is a part of her story. That story that definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, tells us about God's glory. My goodness, my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Thank you again, Shirley, so much. I mean that literally from the very bottom of my heart. Your story did something to me today in a good
Amen.
way. I do this work every week, um, throughout the week. And I am often reminded of his glory and his goodness, and it's through everyone else's testimony. But it's not that I lose sight of who he is and who I am in him and what he's done in my life. But sometimes we just need those reminders.
Yeah.
And I remember it because I live my life. But when I hear someone else's story, it's like, God, you're just that good. I know you're good to everybody. I know you're good to me.
My
And
God.
it is not about a comparison. It is not about any of that. It's just because there's levels to this thing. I hear one story and it's like, whoa, you did that, God? What? Shut up. And then
Mm.
I hear another story and it's like, God, and it's across the globe from Africa, literally,
Yes.
to Massachusetts. We done traveled the world and continents, and
Um,
we're hearing about what God is doing for his people. And I think, and I sideways get an attitude, Lord, correct me now if I'm wrong, but I get an attitude just because somebody's got the nerve to say he's not real. What?
mm,
Come on now. Big Bang. Okay, yeah, there
mm.
was a Big Bang. There sure was. He said, and it was.
That's
Bang.
right.
That was it. It and I get it because at one point in my life, in my younger years, I didn't know. I had to have an experience, something for me to hold on to so that I'd be like, mm-mm. Because the devil's gonna test you, especially when you're trying to find God. When
Mm,
you're trying to understand this whole God thing. What is this all about?
that's
Right?
right.
And so he's gonna talk to you.
Mm,
Yeah, nah, that can't be real. Nah, that ain't no God. Because if that was God, then so yeah, I've been there. I've had those challenging mental moments. I've had those questionable moments, but I thank God that there was someone along my journey who told me those days would come and
yes.
instructed me on what to do when it happens. And a lot of times in church, we tell everybody, these good cliches and we say all these things. We don't tell the people. What do they do? You speak as if they know.
Mm,
I caught myself when my son, my he's learning how to drive now, and he said to me, "Well, mommy, well, he don't call me mommy no more." He says, "Well, mom, I'm just learning how to drive," and I immediately I was like, I'm responding to him as if he already knows.
right.
Why doesn't he know that this is what he's supposed to do? Well, it's because he had to be taught. And it took me, and a lot of times I take moments and I apply it spiritually. And I was like, oh, God is just that patient with us.
Yes.
He's just that
Ooh.
patient.
Mm,
All right. Yes. You're learning. Have patience. Be aware of what's happening in the moment. Sometimes we are so surface minded. We see things for the surface so often that we don't even take time to sit back and look at the deeper piece.
mm.
What's really going on here? I thank you. And I hate to say thank you, girl, because it's like everybody always say thank you. But I thank you, girl. I do because you have embraced it. And that is a part of what girl embrace it is. The it is everything that you experience in life that can weigh you or has weighed you down. The
Amen.
thing that you have to get over, embrace it, take it on, and tackle it. And you have done that over and over and over again. And I'm glad you're here to tell the story and to continue to tell the story. You are an example, Shirley. I don't even know how old you are, but you are an example for women and young girls, people young and old. And one thing about this video and the show that aired earlier this morning is that it won't go away. Somebody, I can see it 10 years from now. Some mother who watched this and decided to keep going, to to not give up, to get out because of you.
Amen.
Look, baby, mommy was here one day. And you know what helped me? There was this lady, I never met her, but listen to her story. Play.
Amen.
And that little girl tells her little daughter, 15 years later, my mama showed me this video about this lady. We're talking 25 years down the line. Her story. She talked about Job. She told us about the potter. She told us about what she'd been through. You stressed out because you didn't get an A on your test? Play.
Mm, God.
Because you were a teenager when it started. That's my point. And there's so many young girls who are not talking about the stuff that they're dealing with for a lot of reasons, but most of it is fear. Either fear of the abuser or fear of what others will think, fear of what their mom or dad might say, fear of what will be the next moment. Now that I've exposed this, what do I do next? It comes in so many forms, but it's still that one thing. It's fear. Your story, man, she got away. He tried to, uh, it wasn't no something. That window was locked because God said no. Uh-uh.
course. Oh,
He will
Jesus.
lock windows that no man can open. Come on now. And he made a way of escape. Don't get me
Yeah.
started. Sean. I've been holding back. Now I'm trying to. I think I've been doing real good. Okay, but you got away, and you had enough sense to know this is my moment. And even though there are girls and women out there, because I mean, some might think you're senseless, and it's like, girl, why didn't you leave? Sometimes you are out of your senses because of what you've experienced. But that young girl will see this and say, oh, she did it. I don't wish it on anyone, but she could very well be in a similar situation. And in her mind, wait, Shirley, this is what she did. What did she do? She ran, run, because you shared your story. I thank you for your willingness to tell your story. Y'all buy the book. Don't buy it just for the sake of supporting. Yes, support her, but buy it and then read it. Get something out of it. And I'm going to talk to y'all about the book when I read it because I'm going to be reading it too. Oh my goodness. But again, guys, I appreciate your time watching us and listening to After the Show behind the scenes. Make sure that you stay connected with Saturdays with Shalimar J as well as Girl. Embrace it. You can follow me on Instagram at beautifully scarred one, and that is the number one. You can also find me at my website, www.girlembraceit.com. I am also on Facebook, Girl Embrace It. You can find me there or simply look up Shalimar Johnson. The 30th of January this month, we are having a girls' night out. It's a date with this person or this thing called Embrace. It is on Facebook. So all you got to do is go to Facebook and you look up the group Christian Women Network, CWN. Request to be a member, and I will accept your membership request so long as I see everything falls in line. And you'll be invited to join us on June 30th, or sorry, June, maybe it's another day I need to do something. January 30th, in the Embrace Room. The invites and information for how to get into the room will come to you on that day. So please go on ahead, come on, bring your tea, your coffee, and your distractions and your discouragements and your hindrances. And we're going to tackle those things one at a time. All right. So thank you again, Shirley, for your time, for
Thank
your
you.
testimony. To God be the glory. And as I always say, your scars, they're beautiful. Why? Because they're your testimony. Until next time, I'll see y'all same time, same place, different day. Bye, guys.
Bye. Awesome.